Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com. And this is my son Ben. And together we have the honor, the deep, deep honor to taste 6 Glen Grant whiskies from 1950, every vintage up to 1955.
Ooh, it's very, very exciting. It's the Glen Grant collection, what they call it. And it's 6 whiskies, as you said, with a combined age of 353 years and more.
Yeah. So we have vintages. That's the date when the whiskey was distilled. And it was distilled in the Glen Grant distillery, as you said it. And then the casks were in the possession of Gardner MacPhail, an independent bottler. And I visited Gardner MacPhail in 2005, I think. And I visited also the warehouses, and all the old casks are resting there, maturing quietly. And so from those very, very old casks, from time to time, casks arise, and they have their own label, this house-style label. And here you can see a Glen Grant from Gardner MacPhail with this Gardner MacPhail house label, and that's different to the normal, regular Glen Grant, which is most often sold over or through the supermarkets.
Yes, and the Glen Grant, here the Gardner MacPhail company is a very old company, and this is done by the fourth generation of the Urquhart family.
Yeah.
And this is a product of 3 generations, as they say here. 350 years of experience in whiskey maturation presented in the handsome oak case. These aged Glen Grant single malts offer the connoisseurs layers of complexity to enjoy and savor, carefully curated under the watchful eyes of 3 generations at Gardner and MacPhail's. These are 6 whiskies represented the history and heritage of spirit making at the Glen Grant distillery, and there are only 75 of these sets made worldwide.
Yeah, so these samples have the same ABV as the big bottles, which are in this wooden box. This 40% ABV, and that's not something special or too few ABV, because those casks are so old that most of the casks just made it over the 40 limit, and therefore they diluted everything a little bit down to 40, that they are equal. And thank you very much to Gardner MacPhail and to the distributor
and Glen Grant
that we got these samples for tasting. Yeah. What to say else? Glen Grant is a famous distillery. Sorry. And they have six or 8 huge pot stills, very heavy, big. Mm-hmm. And they have such a cylindrical reflux.
Yeah, they have a strange, I think the wash stills, they have a thing on top which is cylindrical, as you say. It's not really a reflux bowl,
no,
but makes the neck closer and thinner, and they're really quite tall. They have a hump in before the line arm. Mm-hmm. So the separation, I think it's a rather pleasant and easy to drink whiskey, right? The distillery character is very easy, but I think there will be not much left from the distillery character.
Probably not. And
after 50 years, I think you can still tell an Isla from another one, but the rest is just it's wood.
And Gardner MacPhail, not Gardner MacPhail, Glen Grant, they worked a lot for the Chivas company, for the Chivas Riedel. It was one of 6 distilleries which produced for this Chivas blend, and very, very few whiskey was matured for a longer time. So from time to time there are older bottlings from Glen Grant, but I've seen a 94 vintage, a 16-year-old, a 25-year-old. Probably had some of them. My cask, and I had 7 years ago, I had a 1955. So This one I had already, but from a different cask with a different bottling date. I think then the whiskey had been 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So this time it will be the time where I'm tasting the oldest whiskey ever.
Yeah, for me too.
So we're going, they are all over 50 years old, and the oldest is 61 years. So I thought about the sequence in which we will taste that, and typically you would start with the 1955 and then work yourself backward to 1950, but they are not from the same age. So you could start with a 57, go down to a 52, and then went up again. So I decided we're going by the casks. So the hefty...
The distillation date.
Not the distillation, from the cask, from the type of cask.
Okay.
So that we have the pure sherry cask last.
This is also by distillation date.
Also by distillation date, but no.
It's
The 55 and 54 have the heaviest casks. So we start with the 1950 and then 51 going up. And this will help us, to not to spoil the taste of the most valuable bottles by a hefty cask. Well, more or less. So we're starting with the 1950.
With the 1950. So while you fill the glass, I can tell you what is in that bottle. It's distilled 1950. Bottled on the 20th December 2007. 57 years old. There are 668 bottles worldwide. It's
so more than one cask?
Yeah, more than one cask. There are cask number 853. Hogshead distilled 25th February 1950. Cask number 2734. Sherry Bot distilled 12th of October 1950.
So, so here we go. So I have to leave a little bit in that sample because my wife also wants to have a little bit. So here we go.
So this is 40% ABV and 80 proof. They're all the same strength. They're all drinking strength. Which is probably not far away from cask strength.
Yeah, probably not.
Wow.
So this is astonishingly fresh.
Fresh and also fruity.
Mm-hmm. Berries.
Mm-hmm. Bit of spices in there as well.
Yeah, coming through, definitely.
But also oak.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the oak will be present in all of them. Although I would have expected from, what was it, 57 years, I said?
Mm-hmm.
I would have expected more.
More spice and less fruitiness.
More oak.
Yeah. So there's a little wine note on top.
Mm-hmm.
Like an old port wine or Madeira.
Now that I smell it even more, it's getting less fresh and fruity and more deep and full-bodied.
Yeah.
So 1 second for every year. This will be half an hour video.
Mm-hmm. A little caramel in it, and remembrance of smokiness. Little mouth covering.
Oh, it's Yeah, fresh and fruity, but when you swallow it, you do get that remembrance of smokiness, but it's a ashy smokiness, a bit of a dry smokiness, a bit of a... Also,
not too dry.
Also,
My tongue is still moving.
It's a mixture, it's a normal one. It's a little bit of apple in there, a bit of fruitiness, a bit of fruitcake, a bit of stewed apple, a bit of... but really intense and complex. And long.
So 57, this is a record. Yeah.
But it's long, it's almost as still as I would just have swallowed it.
I don't have this bitterness that dark chocolate or black chocolate aromas typically have. No, this is this oakiness, spiciness, but no bitterness. Yeah. So here, that's the first one.
So it's really hanging in there. It's really...
So we leave a few drops in so that we can have a comparison to another. So this one is 51.
51.
And we have a 51 here, an older one. Well, this is from the bottling date 2011. And here on my sample I can see 2013. So this is 2 years older.
Okay, so we have distilled 1951, bottled 4th February 2013. Years 61, so this one is right the oldest again. After 5 minutes after that you get another one who's breaking the record.
Yeah.
Okay, original outturn 358 bottles worldwide. Cask number 2760, refill sherry butt, distilled 1st of September 1951.
Did we say that?
Second cask,
sorry.
3202. First fill sherry butt, distilled 11th November 1951. So refill sherry butt and first fill sherry butt. Unfortunately, we don't know the sherry that was in there.
The color of these are lighter than that of the last ones. So the refill sherry cask should, bring down the color. Just a big amount of color is missing compared to a first fill sherry cask.
Depends on if it's a pre-war cask or a post-war cask. Because wasn't it that like during the war in 1944 they said no whiskey distilling, we need all the barley for the bread?
Yeah.
And so
I think they started when the war was hefty. So from 43 up till 46 or 47, after the war years.
So, but no, wait, that train of thought is not good because they still had casks during the war.
Yeah.
So no.
So this one is, I have this beeswax note in it.
This one is a bit fruity and lighter.
Yeah.
With the beeswax, yeah.
And typically the color you have in these samples would be achievable with a 25-year-old. So might be that these weren't Oloroso sherry casks, but probably lighter ones, not that oxidized. Definitely fruity, and this might be if you have these.
I also get a bit of a bit of vanilla, nuts. Kind of reminds me a bit of a very, very light bourbon, but also much, much more round, and not as it's strong. It's mild and pleasant and old.
These
with beeswax.
These nuts typically come from sherry casks.
The Oloroso is strong on the nuts, but I wouldn't. There's so much oxidization going on,
Yeah.
so much changing of tastes. I wouldn't dare to say anything about the casks.
Now it's really kicking in. That's the spiciness from the oak. And going over to, a little bit intense spiciness, like a pepper, but not that sharp pepper, the spicy one. So probably white pepper. And and a little bit of, now there's some vanilla, there's some caramel in it, and then the nuts, they switch over to almonds. But not the bitter ones. No?
From the taste in the mouth, it's very, very oily and very, very soft, creamy almost.
Yeah.
This one is more on the European oak side. You didn't get any bitterness. But you get a bit of a dry,
In the old years,
leathery, white pepper. Definitely, there's a bit of a spiciness going on. Wouldn't have expected that from the nose, though.
in the old years, I think every sherry cask had been a European wood cask, because freight rates from the US to Scotland were high, and so in former times they took apart the cask, the staves, in a container, and then they rebuilt it in Scotland because labor was cheaper than the freight rates over the Atlantic.
So you can compress all the material.
Yeah, and today labor is so expensive that you buy the finished casks from the US, and so casks came typically from Central Europe, and they came from the sherry industry, probably the cognac industry.
Yeah, the sherry industry was when the British Empire ruled the world. Their ships were sailing with sails, but they also needed fuel, and that was Madeira and sherry.
Madeira is so much better than beer. So, next one, 52.
52.
They're older than I am. It's incredible.
Distilled in 1952, bottled 25th of September 2012. Years old, 59. Original outturn, 665 bottles worldwide. Cask number 378, first fill sherry butt, distilled 22nd of January 1952. And the second cask is cask number 1133, first fill sherry hogshead, 15th of March 1952. Third barrel is 1471, first fill American hogshead, 5th of April 1952. And the fourth cask is 3245, refill sherry hogshead, distilled October 1952. So we have first fill sherry hogshead, American hogshead, and refill sherry hogshead.
So this American oak.
Hogshead.
So this American oak is something really special for that time.
Yeah, the Americans had been about, 27 years out of the prohibition. It's there's banana in it that sticks out for me, but it's a very, very, very ripe banana, like a really black one. You're thinking, might that be good? And you open it, it's still good, so you eat it, and
then there is some menthol in it, so I have this light cooling effect in my nose, and this beeswax again.
I do have a bit more deep tones, bit leathery. But it's a complex one. This is I really can't make out. But again,
Yeah,
Very
that's the
very
banana,
okay.
definitely.
Now you got that
You
one.
find the right distance.
How does it? But they are so round. You can stick your nose in and just take a whiff, and there's nothing bad going on. It's just take a full whiff of.
A light aromatic note, like a little bit of. Yeah. A little bit of smoke, but it's aromatic oak, I think. It's no smoke.
Yeah, it's a.
Probably this smokiness might come from the boundary layer between the charcoal layer, and the original oakiness. So there in between there is an intermediate layer where you have these not fully oxidized compounds in
Not
it.
fully charred, but also not fully not just caramelized,
Yeah,
but burned.
but burnt. Yeah,
So there is but it's very very light.
very light. Yeah, a fruitiness.
And
light
it's
fruitiness.
a different smokiness. Like I'm not sure if it's again ashiness or if it's a just I would see a lot of leather in there. Very ripe banana in there. Maybe a bit of a earthy tone. It's strange. Very complex.
Again, peppery. Definitely strong pepper from the oak. Mouth covering. And now I have this leather note.
Oh. Wow, this is a spicy one. This is a really
Yeah.
spicy one. But it's a very deep spicy one. Deep black pepper, white pepper. Bit of a slight chili touch. But combined with a bit of a smokiness. And deep earth tones and very heavy, and it's like a cellar with a bit of a ham, a bit of a smoking going on inside the cellar. Very
So
deep. Very
this one I definitely have to add water afterwards, to drink a little water.
Oh yeah.
Because this one is
Yeah.
so hefty that the next one might not be able to go.
Oh, that
over.
hangs in. It's still like, just like you swallowed it. Wow. But this one was also a bit more intense on the alcohol. You had a bit of a the intensity. You realize that the intensity comes from the alcohol in that one.
Probably this was the third one we had on our tongue, and this added up because we did not have water in between. So now it's 53.
The greatly aged Space Cider has all components for the perfect after dinner dram. Distilled 1953, bottled 5th of June 2013, years old, 60, original outturn, 517 bottles worldwide, casks, numbers 598, 599, refilled sherry butts. Distilled 31st of January 1953, task number 1105, refilled sherry hogshead, distilled on the February 28th, 1953. So we have refilled sherry butt and refilled sherry hogshead. So again,
And we see it's a little more
Pure-
reddish and not that
sherry.
light, no? 60 years of age. Refill means a lot had been gone out with the first one. Sorry.
The aroma is still a bit present.
Now there's the beeswax, which came from the last one a little bit. Now is hefty. The first one I have, and some lemon behind. So this is completely different.
That's a full swing full to the other side. It's a fresh, flowery, zesty, I would say minty, methyl.
Yeah, methyl
lemon.
again. This, I thought the last one wasn't the menthol, but this alcoholic note you found out. So this one is more menthol because.
But also
it's
with the
cooling.
beeswax. But it's a. I wouldn't say this is one of the old, earthy, 60 years old. But it's a bit of a lighter one combined with a good amount of oak. Oh, that's nice. So this proves that old whiskies can be different. They're not all the same.
Oranges, candied oranges, and then spiciness, oakiness. All the old stuff behind. Now, a little bit mouth coating, mouth watering.
Oh. Wow. Ooh, there is a bitter tone in there. Like, oh, that really reminds me. Do you know that Lindt chocolate, where you have the dark chocolate with the orange bits in it, also with the orange zest in it? Yeah, that tastes like that one, but much more intense.
So
With
the light bitterness is the orange peel, and the fruitiness is the orange
also
itself.
also with chocolate. But this one is more like I would have expected a very old whiskey. It's bitter, old, and with dark tones, chocolate. Yeah, intense. So, you really have to brace yourself for that one.
So
And
we're
this
really
is also-
honored with this.
Yeah,
aren't
and
we?
it's also this one proves also that there can be a huge discrepancy between the smell and the taste. You had a light, fresh, zesty menthol, and then take it in your mouth and it's deep, strong. So it doesn't have to be that all the nose has to be the taste.
Have we discussed the price of this? No.
Oh,
Not yet.
Not yet.
So there are 6 full bottles in a wooden box, and there are only 75 sets of those, and they cost above 10,000 euros, dollars, pounds, wherever you are. More expensive they are, and those miniatures have a value. I calculated it from about 400 plus euros. Yeah. So unfortunately, they aren't for sale. The miniatures, they are not for sale, and there aren't any miniatures on the market. Just the full set, and just 75. So if you intend to buy such a set, go out there immediately, because there are at least 75 wealthy people in the world which will buy it, one for the cellar and one for tasting.
Yeah, and there will be people out there who just buy it because it's cool. Not because they have anything to do with whiskey, but just because it's cool.
It's cool,
And they have too much money.
and they need Coke to swallow it.
And then he cooked as well. Oh my god, how bad is that? So that's the 54, right?
54. Yeah,
Okay.
it's much darker than
Distilled 24th of April 1954. Bottled 3rd of February 2014. Years old 59. 610 bottles worldwide. Only one cask. 1,822 first fill sherry butt. So
They
610 bottles out of a first fill sherry butts.
there are
59 years.
There are casks and there are oak species which are very, very dense and show very few evaporation.
They must have about 40% of the whiskey left. Is that possible?
Yeah, probably. And
No, less. So they have 600 liters in a barrel. 40%. No, I don't have to calculate the alcohol. The alcohol is about at 40%.
Yeah, probably. There are some, which I said, evaporation, which aren't that low. So there are still some quite high.
One cask, one refilled sherry butt, 610 bottles.
1954. There are other 54 on the market, like this one. This was from
2006.
2006. So I think this might be the last casks from that half decade. And now I think they're gone. In the past, I once had a bottle from 1956 in my arm and a lot of other bottles as well. And then the 56 dropped, fell on the side, splashed completely, everything gone. You can lick the floor. And that time, it's more than 10 years ago. It was just...
You can see there's a different consistency. You have a bubble in it. I had a bubble in it. I think it's very oily.
Yeah. And then in that time it was about 300. Today such a bottle is close to 3,000. And those 6 in a set, it's a bargain.
It's a bargain for 10,000.
Sorry. And and then the 50s were widely gone. And then the 60s were presented as gifts for anniversaries, for birthdays. And then the 70s are already quite rare because then the boom set in, so the casks were nearly gone, and I think those are the last from the 50s, and I think they decided to bottle because the ABV is so low, and to bring the 5 in the 6 in a series, they as well had one which might have matured much longer.
The worst thing I have dropped was a whole case from the 3rd floor with a forklift, and as it was dropping, I could see it's about to drop. It's gonna drop. So, are you gonna catch it? Are you gonna catch it? Are you gonna catch it? Don't be stupid. You don't catch it. It was, I don't know, 24 bottles of Yukon Jack or Jim Beam or something like that. And I was like, no.
I once dropped a Highland Park 6 bottles, and I managed to catch it halfway. Also from the
3rd floor?
1st, 2nd, 3rd.
3rd floor.
So it's 5 meters or 4.5. It hurt, but 2 out of 6 survived.
Not bad. Maybe you should have kept the jacks.
So this is first fill sherry, lots of fruit.
Oh, this is a summer fresh again.
I already have some leather in it. So darker.
You do?
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about the taste now because from what I have in the nose, I would say fresh, but very, very, very much on the berry side, and raspberries, strawberries. But again, with the oak.
Yeah. What else? I'm happy that we put that bottle late because it's so intense, so full, so dark, mature, fruity. And it starts now the first time that you really have not only spiciness, but as well bitterness from the oak.
This is a complex one.
Yeah.
A very complex one. As you said, fruity. And when I had it in my mouth, I would say, oh, fresh fruity just as in the nose. But when you swallow it, you have a bit of dryness, leather, oak, heavy, bitterness, as you said, strong and heavy one.
They are evaporating quite fast. So it's quite difficult to compare them. Because in the end there's vanilla, caramel, oak, and in the afterwards they're nearly all the same.
Yeah, they're fading fast in the glass, but they're keeping strong in the mouth. Oh yeah. So, but again, discrepancy between smell and okay, you had a bit of leather in there. Not that big of a discrepancy, but a complex one.
Yeah. 1955, still older than me.
So
this is also
1955.
quite dark.
Okay, distilled 17th of February 1955. Bottled 25th of September 2012. Years old 57. 800.
So it's a young one.
It's a young one. 484 bottles worldwide. Again, one cask. 833 first fill sherry butt.
Given
that the sherry butt are the same size, they have a hefty difference.
Sorry. There had been sherry casks out there with bigger sizes, up to 700.
700, okay.
And that was then the limit.
They're forming bubbles much more easily than the usual ones, and they're harder to get rid of. I think that stuff is really oily. And what I had in common now was a few things with the very old whiskies. They do have a strong oak influence, obviously, very easy to explain. They're all very complex. They're very, very complex.
So they add everything up what they're able to get.
And what the third thing was, you have a very long aftertaste. So
remembering this aftertaste, yeah. Fruity, a winey note, and a little orange citrus note. So there's no lemon. There's no lemon note because it's all too oxidized. It's always orange.
There's a good amount of malt and dough in there. I would say it's fruitcake, and you have a bit of a caramel in there. Raisins. Very fruity in the nose. I don't have any leather or bitterness in there.
No, little oakiness, little spiciness.
Yeah. The oak's always present.
So I think if you compare this one to a standard bottling, it's extremely spicy, extremely fruity, extremely.
Yeah, it's just these whiskies. I think one thing is also that they were very intense in taste. This shows how much taste you can pack in a glass.
But I think the sixth one is enough. I thought about splitting it up into 2 times 3, but then I said, well, this sequence, we can't interrupt it. It's difficult to remember the next day what we had.
Oh, intense fruity one when you have it in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized when I swallow it, you have a bit of a smoke in there. It's like a cigar smoke, and it's rather dry and fresh.
This,
fruity and
this
and
orange
sweet.
zest.
Orange zest, yeah.
Yeah. And the smokiness is probably, again, this charred oak, the layer between the charcoal and...
This one's the first one that I realized is pretty dry.
Yeah. Aftertaste. You're empty.
So, how were they? As I said, very oaky, very complex, very long aftertaste, and what was the fourth one I just said right now? Can't remember.
Oakiness.
Yeah, oakiness again.
Oakiness.
Double the oakiness.
Spiciness.
Yeah.
Complexity.
Complexity, definitely. For me, the very spicy one, which was on the 52. The 52 was the most exciting one.
We had 2 rounds of tastings here,
Mm-hmm.
and this was the second one. And in the beginning, the oldest, the 61, was the best for me because
The 51 to 61 years
51,
old.
61 years old was the best because there was still a balance between the vanilla caramel fruitiness and the refill casks, and the heftier the sherry influence got, the more on the cask side the whiskies were. After having this second round of tastings, I found the last 2 ones the best, the 55 and the 54. And in the first round, I found the 61 as the best. So there are influences, even when we had quite a long time in between. There is some residue in our mouth, on our tasting buds, which influence. So if you have the chance to have such a extremely old whiskey in a glass, then you shouldn't mix it up in the evening with something else. So
Definitely.
if you would like to, or if you have the first one and you think it's really extremely good, then spend another 100 and get a second dram of the same one, and not to go over to have a cheap one, drink it behind. So less is more in this case. So, but it would be boring having a full week every single one. No.
But the thing, what I found here is I like the spicy one again the best. But the beautiful thing is not all whiskeys and old whiskeys are the same. You can have a bit of a fruity one. You can have a bit of a different one. You can have a spicy one. You can have a bit of a crumble cake one. But they are definitely this different, and they are strange. They're complex. They are to be explored. It's nice, but they all do have a great oak tone.
The difference lies in the oak. There are different expressions of oak, and we had this American oak as well in here. And today, most of the sherry casks have American oak as the wood species, and in former times, nearly every cask had the European oak due to, as we said, the freight rates from the US to Scotland. Yeah, I'm honored, and thanks again to the distributor and Gordon MacPhail to let us have a nose and a sip of these extremely good whiskies.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. If you found this video interesting and you want to share it, then please feel free to share this video with your friends. And remember, just keep being subscribed, and see you next time.